Okay, it's recording. We'll continue doing time value of money today, like last class, and we'll start working on an amortization table. But many of you are missing. Well, I guess I can watch the video later. Uh, Model. Uh, this is one of your teams. I won't tell you which company or which team, just to show you some numbers, because they're having some trouble. So I want to show you, because you might be having the same problem. Uh, they got a bunch of those errors, and that's because when in the income statement or balance sheet, it's an empty the cell is empty. So it's supposed to have a number, but it doesn't have a number. So some of these ratios, they divide by a number, this over this, and if it's equal to an empty cell, it's 0, so that's where you're getting that error. So there's nothing you can do. You don't have to choose another company. This is a very large company. I'm surprised it's empty, but it is what it is. It is the database that we have. So if you get something like that, it's fine. Now, these are the activity ratios. Okay? So once you get to this point where you do all your calculations, the next step will be to do the chart. So you can do the trend analysis. Tell me over time this has been increasing, decreasing. And you do that by, again, you click on the table, you click Analyze, Pivot Chart, and then you can click OK. And that is your graph. Okay, and this will be one of those in which you may have to split the chart into two of them just because the scale is so different. So we have all of this right here, but you can barely see them because those are very, very small numbers compared to the other ones. Something you can try is if you click on the bars, you can move this one to, if you click on that option, you can send that to the secondary axis. Close here. You can still see the others. That may be because they're too small. So if that happens to you, you have to make another pivot table, and you already have all of the ratio calculations, but include only in that table the ones you can see, so you can make a new graph and you can draw it to scale. Okay, so just play around with the tables and the scales until you get something that you can read. And then in this one, the gray one is payment period, so you can see that. What can you tell me about the payment period in this company? On a quarterly basis, it's not declining, it's not increasing over time, but we do have the quarters here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So sometimes you see spikes in quarter 3, for example, because it's a cyclical business. I don't see anything here. So the most you can tell me is as far as average payment period, it's been more or less stable over time. It fluctuates between this number and this number, and then you move on to the next activity ratio. Okay, so that's what I'm expecting in the report. The blue one is inventory turnover. You can, this spike might be just an outlier, so you can ignore that one. If you look at these blue bars, again, they seem to be stable over time. We don't observe any upward or downward trends, and then you move on to the next one. Now, let me see if I move that one to. See, by moving some of the bars to the other side, then you can see the others popping, but that's difficult to read. So this is one when you might be better to split the graph into several. Same thing here. If you get all of that, you can still do the pivot chart activity. And then don't forget, when you're writing your report, copy and paste the graph into the report so that you can, as we can observe in the chart, there's an upward trend, downward trend, no trends, etc. This one, this is where you have total revenue and net income. And I like it better when the bars are next to each other instead of being on top of each other. And I was playing last night with this, and I got it to work. Let me see if I can replicate it. It's something you change computers. So what I did was I click right here, This is net income and total revenues. So I click here and move it up, and then this one down. So I put this one here, and then put it back down here, and suddenly it works. And if you ask me why, I don't know. And then if I take this one and move it up here, then it gives you the different colors. There's no logic to the steps. It works. It worked in my computer. It's working in this one, so I'm assuming it's going to work in yours. These are not perfect programs. So see, that looks better, because then you can see total revenue and you can see net income. This is a very large company. You can see how difficult it is to make money. I mean, you sell a lot of sales, but then you only keep some of that as profit. Something else you can do in your graphs, you click here. I believe if you double click, yeah, this will pop. And then you can display the units in, for instance, like thousands. So instead of having a huge number, so this will be 2,000, but the number is in thousands, so that's really what, 2 million. But it looks better when you do it that way. And then you can click on number, and you can format this as currency, for instance. So you'll put a dollar sign. So that's going to make it look better. So before you copy and paste into your Word, you can do all of that to make the graph look nice. As far as title, I believe you can add a title. Let's close here. Format, close and design. Right here, quick layout. Right here, add chart element. You can add a title, chart title. So this can be your total revenue net income. So make them look nice, so your report looks professional. What I'm going to do, since it's extended deadline until Friday, so it was due tomorrow, now you can turn it in on Friday. And I was going to do that from the beginning, but if I tell you Friday from the beginning, then you don't get ready for today, so you don't have this. So you have that extra day you're supposed to have most of that already, where you have more or less close to the charts and the tables. Now it's just cosmetics, adding titles and the units and making the graph look like that. And then once it's ready, then you can copy and paste into the Word document. What can you tell me about this one? There seems to be a slight uptrend in total revenues, slide 1. So you can describe that to me. Net income, which is the bottom line, it's stable over time. It's around what? It's over here. About 2 billion. Maybe there's I don't know, lately. Sometimes you can tell me, in the last year we can see an upward trend. You don't have to use the whole period. So try to describe something. And if you don't see anything, just tell me it's stable and it's fluctuating between these two numbers. Okay? And that way you learn how to describe all of these tables. All right. Now I want to show you something here. It helps if you click on I'll get this out of the way, any of the pivot tables you have been creating. If you go to Analyze and you click on Fields, Items, and Sets, you click on List Formulas, and those are all the ones you have been creating in the Fields, Items, and Sets. Okay. Now, if you modify an equation here, it's not going to change the equation what it's supposed to be, so you can recalculate. But at least you have that, so you can see if you made a mistake in the equation. I was supposed to be doing this over that, and it's wrong. But it's easier to see the formulas right here. And it's just text again. So if you change something here, it's not going to fix anything. Okay. Any concerns about the model number 1? Yes. No, you don't have to give me that. You're going to be sending me the file. So if I see a little trouble in a number, I can do this and check what formula you use. Okay. But when you're double checking your work, you can do this. It's easier. Okay. Oh, PE ratio. uh, you need a stock price. Because what is the PE formula? Stock price over EPS, earnings per share. So look at stock price today and find what it is. Let's say it's 27. So when you're doing the equation, in the fields, items, and sets equals 27 over earnings per share. And you use that 27 for the whole period. It's not completely right because the stock price was not 27 during the 5-year period, but then you will have to go back and find what the stock price was in each quarter, maybe find the average. It's going to take you a long time, just busy work. So let's assume that it's 27 throughout. Yes? Yes. Okay. I mean, if you do that, even better. Let me know. You know, we went back and. All right. When you're doing the stock prices, when you download the, is it monthly that I ask you? Monthly prices or daily? Forget. Uh, you know, make sure that you include, you know, max, minimum, the statistics, copy and paste the table, describe to me the histogram looks normal, it's skewed to the left, it's skewed to the right, it's flat, you know, it has a peak based on the kurtosis. When you plot the stock price, you know, tell me it's been in an upward trend in the last 5 years, it's been all over the place. That reversion to the mean, when you plot the stock returns, and is that jagged line like this, you know, describe to me stock returns are mean reverting. We can see that the return goes back to the mean throughout the sample period. So everything that we covered when we did that. So, you know, the more you add, the better. Okay? And again, so on Friday, by the end of the day, before the end of the day, 11:59 p.m., send me the Excel file. And during the day, just print a hard copy and stick it in my door. There's a plastic box. You can just drop it in there. Any other questions, concerns? I can't think of anything else. Sure. Yeah. When I click here, analyze, fields, items, calculated field, and then you click here, and those are all the ones you have been calculated. So if you click here, EPS, you can change the equation, and then you say modify, and it'll update the formula and recalculate the whole thing. That's in the second one? No. It's, you know, it's a lot of ratios, so each one needs an explanation. So it can be one page. But any other question? Yes. Well, like this one, you can sometimes you can combine 2, 3 ratios into one. Depends on the scale. The one I was doing in the beginning, the numbers have different. One is 0.1 and the other one was 3,000. So that's why the scale is so different. So those split them into 2 different graphs. But if you do your liquidity ratios, when you plot them, that looks nice. All 3 of them, you can clearly see the bars. None of the bars is so small that you can't see that. So that will be okay to just copy and paste. You know, put the units, put the title, and then so that will be okay. Anything else? And when you're writing this, keep in mind the objective of the class is for you guys to learn Excel so you can do analysis on stocks, real estate. The ultimate goal is not for you guys to know Excel just because you know Excel. So, you know, once you do all of that and you learn to use the pivot tables and you have all your ratios, now tell me what you see. You know, show me that you can use Excel to do further analysis. Okay? I'm assuming that by now most of you have taken at least principles of investments. You have taken your regular finance class. So all of that will be included in those classes. So now use Excel to do the analysis on a real company, not just a book example. Okay. All right, so let me close this one. All right. So let's continue with time value of money. And you can start a new file. or you can, in the old file, the time value of money, you can create a new worksheet. And today we'll be doing amortization tables. Most of you, or you should be familiar with depreciation. Okay? What is depreciation? When you buy a physical asset, you have to expense the asset over some time. So depreciation applies to physical assets, plant, equipment, computers, vehicles. Amortization is the same thing, but it's applied to financial assets. So that's why when you have a mortgage loan, you make an amortization table. It's not a physical asset, it's a financial asset. So we do the same thing as in depreciation. And this is going to be your template, because model number 2 is going to be a amortization table. It's going to be more complete than this one. I'm not going to include taxes in this one. When you turn in your second model, it's going to have property taxes, fees, assessment, bank fees. So it's going to have the whole thing, so you can have a complete model. Here we'll do just the amortization part of the loan. So we always need an input section for an amortization table. So I'll put that in A3. And if you're doing a loan, what are some of the inputs that you need? Let's say somebody's asking you to calculate the payment on a loan. What inputs do you need? The interest, I'm going to do that in A5. Only because I'm following my template. What else do you need? Well, you're calculating the payment. So to calculate the payment, what do you need? Number of periods. So we're going to do here duration of loan, and we'll express it in years. Okay. What else do you need to calculate the payment? Okay. It's called the purchase price, so it can be a half. What else do you need? Think about the calculators we created last class. All those different variables. You're finding payment. What else do you need? We had a PY in the calculator, so payments per year. Typically, it's going to be a monthly payment schedule, but you can make it flexible to work for anything. You have to give a down payment when you buy a house, when you buy a new vehicle, and usually they tell you, we need a 20% down payment, 15% down payment, so it will be expressed as a percent. You also need to know, okay, so when is going to be your first payment? And we're going to make this one flexible so that if the user wants to give additional money, he or she can do that, so you can input that number. The way the extra payment is going to work is going to be the same extra payment every single month. If you want to make different extra payments every single month, then you have to manually, every month, input that extra payment and do the calculation, which makes it really complicated. So we'll assume that it's always the same one. Okay? And we can relax that when we complete. So that's the inputs. Let's, I don't know, what kind of house do you guys want to buy? Give me a dollar amount. 100,000? Oh, wow. Why think small, right? All right, so $500,000. For the interest rate, let's call that one also APR, because all the rates, they're given to you as APRs, which we explained last class. Okay. I don't know. How's your credit? It's just a nice 5% APR. Do you want a 20-year loan, 30-year loan? 20? Let's do 30 years. That's the maximum. So the table can be for 30 years, and then we can cut it to 20. So if we make it for 20, then we have to go back and extend it. So 30 years, and then we'll do monthly payments. Down payment, How much can you give? Well, you're paying the cash. Well, let me find somebody else who's not as fortunate as you. Let's do 20%. So that's good. You'll save a lot of money if you pay cash. Why do I pick 20%? If you have taken real estate, what happens when you give less than 20% on a loan? What fee do you have to pay? It's an insurance. It's called PMI. It's called private mortgage insurance. So if you give less than 20%, the bank will charge PMI. What it is, you have to pay the fee, the premium to the bank, and you're protecting the bank in case you default on your loan. So if you default on the loan, the bank will still receive the money from the PMI, for the private mortgage insurance company. When you give more than at least 20%, the bank assumes you're a responsible person, so we believe in you, we trust you, so we're going to avoid that fee. But less than 20, you have to pay it. So, but I'm going to put 20%. Today is the 28/17. So you're doing this today, and let's assume that you'll start making your first payment 1 month from today. So we'll put the start date there. And for now, no extra payment, so 0. When you're doing models, you can always make one of the columns smaller, so you don't get out of the screen. So this is going to be our output section. And what is something that the person will want to know? Obviously, the monthly scheduled payment. Let's call that one scheduled payment only. Why not monthly? Because you can do this semi-annually or weekly. So scheduled payment. And I want you guys to start doing some calculations. Find the payment for this loan. You have to use the PMT function. So get 2,147. Who's getting 2,684? Why do you think that is? If you got that payment, you're financing 100% of the loan, and you're giving a down payment, so you're financing only 80% of the purchase price. So how do you put that in the equation of payment, so that you finance only? In this case, it would be 80%. Minus the down payment. Where do you go? Okay. So I have the following. B5 over B7. APR over payments per year. And then B6 times B7 is years times payments per year. And then I put minus B4, so it can give me back a positive payment. Or you can make B4 positive, and then you put a negative in front of the payment function. It's up to you. Doesn't matter. And you multiply that by 1 minus B8, and B8 is the down payment, so that you're financing only the 80%. Okay. So the scheduled payment. What else will somebody we want to know? So how much is the down payment going to be? $100,000. So it's the purchase price times the 20%. That's what I did. Now, something else you want to calculate is the number of scheduled payments. So once you sign on that loan, how many payments are you going to be making? Equals what? So 30 times 12, there you go. So 360. But then we're going to add the following. The actual number of payments. Because you may end up giving fewer payments if what happens? If you make extra payments, you're not going to be making all of those payments. You're going to finish sooner. So how will you guys find that? Think about time value of money. And there are 5 basic variables, I think 5. N, present value, future value, payment, and interest rate. So which one are you looking for? N, okay? So I'm going to begin with that. Equals, and what is the function for N in Excel? NPER, and then you open the parentheses. So calculate for me the number of actual payments, assuming that we give an extra payment right here. And let's do that before. Let's say that you give an extra payment of $100 per month. So now here, it will be equal to NPER, open parentheses. So calculate for me the number of actual payments when the person here makes the minimum payment plus the extra payment. I'm getting 325. Does anybody have the 325? Not yet. Yeah. So what is the key to get the 325? What did you do? Okay. That's the key right there of the loan. Okay. So when you get to that payment section in the function, you will do the minimum payment plus the extra payment. So because you're giving a bigger payment, it's gonna you're going to finish paying this loan off sooner. Okay? So let me show you my equation. So right here is B5 over B7. That's APR over payments per year. And then I'm using negatives so that I can get a positive payment, but it's minus E4, which is your minimum payment, minus the B10, which is the extra payment. So you combine the 2 payments, you're going to finish sooner. Okay? And then present value is the principal times 1 minus the down payment. Okay? Make sense? Now, how will you know if that's correct? Let's make the extra payment 0, and that will be equal to what? 360. If you get something else, then you got an error. So let's make it again 100. Okay. Now, you can't give 325.48 payments. Okay. You can only give 325 or 326, right? And so you have a couple of options here. One is you get rid of the decimals right here. But that's going to round the number to 325 because it's not over 0.25. But you still have to give that 0.49. So let's round it up to 326. And so double click on the function. And let me see if I can do this here. We're going to take the MPER function and put that one inside another function. And the function is called round up. And open the parentheses. And then go to the very end. You put a comma, and it's asking you for the number of digits. Because it's payments, we don't want any decimals. So you close the parentheses. So what Excel is doing is calculating the number of payments, and then it's applying to that number the round up function, and I want to round up to 0 decimals, so I get 326. Okay? And you can add decimals here, and it's 326 because you rounded up to no decimals. So, but let's get rid of the decimals. Okay? So we have 326 payments. Okay? All right. So we have that. I guess. What's going to be the total payment on this loan? You know, when you finish making the last payment, what's going to be the total payment on the loan? What I'm asking is, if you add up all of the payments over the 30 years, 20 years, whatever number, how much will you pay in total? Well, it has to work for both. How will you find that? Equals what? Okay. Which one? The actual number or the scheduled number of payments? Yeah, so let's do this. So we take your minimum payment plus your extra payment times the 326, right? And if you make that equal to 0, it's running up to 361. We'll fix that in a second. If you make this one equal to 0, then you have your total payment if you go the 30 years. If you do $100 extra, then you find your total number of loan payments. That makes sense? Something else you want to know is total interest paid. Over the life of the loan, how much money are you going to be paying in interest? It's a lot of money, but how much? No. Purchase price minus the down payment. So that minus purchase price times 1 minus the down payment. So you'll pay 332,000 in change in interest for this loan. Yeah, it's a lot of money. And let's go with no extra payment, and that number jumps to what? 375,000. So I'm going to show you a different way to calculate that 375. So let's repeat that one. So I'm going to show you a new Excel function. It's called the following: CUM for cumulative, and then you put the I for interest, and then PMT for payment. So the function will give you the cumulative interest payment over the life of the loan. So we open the parentheses, and you need a whole bunch of stuff here. First, the rate. So let's do the same thing. APR 5% divided by 12, payments per year, comma, it's asking for NPER, number of payments. And which one is that going to be? It's going to be the 360. Let's always use the actual number of payments, because if you give an extra payment, you want to use that number. Okay? And then, comma, present value will be the purchase price times the 1 minus the down payment, comma. And then it's asking you for starting period. Are you there? Okay, so that would be, because you can use this function to find out how much interest do I pay between payments 5 and 10, or 5 and 25. But in this case, I want the whole loan, so it will be between 1 and the 361. So you can do it between now and the last payment. Okay. Again, you can check between different payments. And then it's asking you if it's ordinary annuity or annuity due. Here you don't have the option not to put the number. You have to put a number. It's not in brackets. It's an ordinary annuity, so we put a 0. And we close the parentheses. And because you pay the money, if you put a negative in front of the function, let's fix that, the 361. I'm going to, there's another function, Excel, instead of rounding up, let's use only round. Okay. So that it doesn't round up to 361, it's going to leave it in 360. And then now look at these two numbers. They match perfectly, okay? Because before that, they weren't matching, because we were using one extra payment, okay? So again, in that one, for actual number of payments, just round. And then let's, okay. So a lot of money. And then finally, let's calculate this. Interest, well, actually, a couple more. Interest savings with extra payment. Sorry. So if we give that extra payment, we're going to be saving money because you finish sooner. So I want to do the calculation right there. How will you go about modeling that? What options do you have? What do you think about that? You see, dollar sign is at the beginning here, and then here's right next to the number. The selecting that because one is currency and one is accounting. So just, you can choose what you like. It's up to you. But oh, they're not exactly equal. Almost. How will you find that your savings? You can calculate the total interest payment when you without the extra payment and total interest payment with the extra payment. And the difference will be your savings. That makes sense? So how do you calculate that? Okay, let's do this. Equals, and I'm gonna put a minus right there. CUMIPMT. So I'm going to calculate the interest with the scheduled number of payments, and then do the same thing with the actual number of payments. So I need what? I need the rate. So let's do it again. 5/12, comma, and then for number of periods, you will do number of scheduled payments. Okay. Comma, present value will be purchase price times 1 minus the down payment, comma, start period will be from 1 to which one? To 360. Okay. And then comma, type 0. And then plus, again, CUMIPMT. Now, repeat the same thing we just did, but instead of using scheduled number of payments, use actual number of payments. Oh, you can do that way too. So what is the model saying? That if you give a payment of $100 every month, you will save how much money? $42,000. The reason why I have a negative sign in front of CUMIPMT is because the function gives you back a negative number. So to make it positive, I put a negative. And then here, I leave the plus because that will give me a negative number, so you can do minus the number. So does that make sense? And it's a long equation. Does it make sense? Okay. Total payment with 360 minus total payment with only 325. Okay. And the nice thing about having something like this is, what if I pay an additional $250 per month? Then you save how much money? Close to $88,000. Questions so far? So we can start doing the table. So someday when you apply for a loan, they're going to give you something like this, and then they're going to give you the amortization table. So let's do that one right here. And I'm going to start doing that. Usually it works better if we put in a different worksheet. So let's do that. So for the columns, we're going to have number, and that's the number of payment. Up to how many payments can you have in this loan? It's 30 years. So what will be the number, the maximum number? 360. So how do you do that? How do we go, how do we ask Excel to populate that column from 1 to 360? What was the command? Fill series. You want this to be in a column. Step value 1, so you can do 1, 2, 3. And then a stop value 360. And OK. And it'll populate it for you. So you have to type one number so it knows where to start from. And then you go fill series. You want this to be in a column. Step value is 1, and the stop value is 360. Okay. And then we'll have a date column. So the user knows when the next payment is due. So here, I'm gonna show you a new Excel function. It's equals date. Now we used date value before. You use that one for the model number 1. So we're going to use the first one, date, and then you open the parentheses. And this one can handle, as you can see in your screens, year, month, and day. So the way this one works, you have to type year. And then open the parentheses. Okay? So I'm asking Excel to extract the year from which cell. Click on sheet 1, and it's from that one right there. From B9 on the other one. So it can get the year from there, which is 2017. Okay? And then you close the parentheses, go back to sheet 1. Hope it works. Yeah. Okay. Comma. So we got the year. And then we have month. I'm following the syntax in the command. And then you open the parentheses. And then you have to go back to the other one and click on the date. Okay? And this is where it's going to become clear why. Oops. I don't want that. It's B9. Now, if you're making monthly payments, when is your next payment due? If we started today, 2/8/2017, your next payment will be due when? 3/8. Okay, so that means that it's next month. So in Excel, we're going to do that year and then month and then put +1. So Excel will add 1 month to the month that you input in the other cell. Okay. Before I knew this function, I used to do, I had the date, and if you do date plus 30, it's plus 30 days. But not every month is 30 days. So it may work in the beginning, but then it gets off. So it's not going to be giving you the exact date. And then we put comma, and it's day. Open the parentheses. Close the parentheses. You have to close 2 of them. Okay? So if you do that, it'll give you March 8, 2017. Okay? This is the only way you can have Excel give you the next month. You have it? You have date, open a parenthesis, type year, and then you can type it if you want. You can type SHEET month +1 and then day. Okay. So how do I get the date for the second payment? Like this one right here, which will be what? April 2017. Can you copy this equation all the way to the bottom? No. No, because if I copy it once, what is that equal to? 10, 6, 1900. Why? Because the next cell is which one? This one. Okay? So what do you have to do before you can copy the equation? So date, year, open parentheses, but now it's easier. We click on this one. Right? And then comma, close, comma, month, from that one, close one, comma, day. Now you can copy that one because it'll be based on the one before, so you can copy this all the way to the bottom. So it's going to look like this. So when are you going to finish paying this loan off? 2047. Yeah. I'll be there to see. This one? Same thing, but it's based on the other worksheet. And that sheet 1B9 is where I had the date in the other one. The next column you need is your beginning balance. Okay. You haven't made a single payment, so what is the balance on the loan equal to? Minus the down payment, right? So I'm going to do equals, go to the other one, click on that, and so that's your beginning balance. Okay? It's just equal to, in the other one, click on the purchase price times 1 minus the down payment. Same thing we've been doing. Okay? That's how much money you're going to be financing. 400 grand. Okay? Okay? Now, interest. Well, let's do the payment first. Payment. What's going to be your payment on March 8th, 2017? Equals to what? Which one is your minimum scheduled payment? This one, right? Plus, click on the extra payment. So you can combine both payments. Okay? So assuming that extra payment of $250, your payment will be $2,397. This one? Okay. So all of you have that? Payment? All? No? Yes? No, it's okay. Look, beginning balance means purchase price times 1 minus the down payment. You're just starting to make payments on the loan, so you own the whole amount, okay? And then your payment is equal to the minimum scheduled payment plus the extra payment, okay? Now, when you have a mortgage loan, the payment has two components. Some of the money in the payment is used to pay principal, and some of the money is used to pay for interest. When you have a bond is called a pure interest loan because the payments are pure interest. There is never repayment of principal. That's what, if you recall, with bonds, what is the future value in a bond? When you buy bonds, what is the future value equal to? Not the initial value, but the par value, which in class we use what? 1,000, right? Why is the par value of a bond 1,000? Because when you buy a bond and they pay you the coupon payments, it's pure interest. So at the end of the bond life, all of the principal is right there. So they pay it to you back. When you have a loan, what is the future value of a loan? Zero, because slowly over time, each payment is repaying the principal. So, okay, so in a mortgage loan like this, the payment pays for principal, pays for interest. So let's calculate the interest. How much of that payment will go to interest? Well, how much money do you owe right now? $400,000, right? For how long have you had the loan? For 1 month. So I'm going to multiply that times. I'm going to go back to sheet 1, and it's 5% over the 12. Because that 5% over 12 will give me the monthly rate on the loan. Okay. All right. So that's how much you apply to interest. So how much can you apply to principal? How much money is going to be applied to principal? Yeah, so the payment minus the interest. So 731 will be applied to principal. So what is your ending balance on the loan after 1 month? Which one? Which payment? The whole payment, the interest payment, or the principal? The principal, because you reduce the amount in the loan only by the principal. So that's how much money you owe after 1 payment. So that's how loans work. Now, can I copy this all the way to the bottom? No, I mean, if you do that, you get all kinds of errors. So what do we have to fix? Give it a try. Try to come up with the second row yourselves. The second row is different from row 1. And then from row 2 all the way to the bottom, they're all equal. Yes. It's equal. In the other one, it's equal to your scheduled payment plus the extra payment. Does that make sense? Why? If it doesn't make sense, to you it's only going to be E4 plus B10. But then you won't know why B4 plus B10. So when you get a loan, they'll give you a minimum payment. You have to pay at least this amount. But then you're giving additional payment. So when you combine the two, they'll give you the total payment. Okay, so that's what I'm doing right there. Of that, C2 times the APR over 12 will give us how much is going to be applied to interest. Okay? And then for principal is the difference between the payment and what was applied to interest. So the remaining is used to reduce the beginning balance. And then you find your ending balance. Okay? So what is beginning balance in row payment number 2? Is equal to that one, right? And then what is your payment equal to? Payment is always the same because you pay this back with an annuity. So what I'm going to do is go to that one and log the E4, log the B10, because it's going to be always the same payment. So we can copy this to that one. How about the interest? What is the interest equal to? To the new beginning balance times the same rate, right? So I'm going to do this. I'm going to log the B5 and log the B7 because those are the APR and the payments per year. And I want to leave C2 dynamic, so when I copy the equation, it'll be applying that to C3, like this. Okay. So you can see that you pay slightly less interest. Why? Because you owe slightly less than the previous payment. How much is going to be applied to principal? Same equation. And what is ending balance? Same equation. Now we can copy this. Any questions? How do you check if you have mistakes? Let me show you. I'll go back to the input section, and I'm going to make the extra payment equal to 0. So the ending balance, when I give my last payment, has to be equal to what? 0. So if that happens to you, then you have all your equations correct. If it's equal to something else, then you have errors. Yeah? And let me show you something. If I give extra payment, $500, I finish in how many payments? 239. So right here, if I go down to 239, look at the beginning balance. It's negative because you're not supposed to keep paying because you're done. But there are actually ways to avoid that, where you can hide numbers when they're negative. You can find amortization tables done professionally. You know, just Google one in Excel, and they look better than this one. But it's complicated to do all the equations. So, I want to emphasize more the financials here. Okay, so any questions? You want to see an equation? Oh, you were a little late, and it takes a long time to explain. So watch the video for that one. Because the function is complicated. So. I know you guys have 250 here, I think. We did this before, but so a reminder. See, if I start going down, you don't have the headlines, the labels. So if you click on A1, all of you click on A1, and then go to View, and then click on Freeze Pane, and click on Freeze Top Row. So when you go down, look what happens. That stays frozen right there, the labels. So you can see what each column is. You don't forget. So,